Every day is an opportunity for you to learn something that sets your home improvement or home services business apart from the competition. Let's make today one of those days. This is a podcast for home improvement and home services marketing. This is Built By.
You've got to be adaptable. You've got to find a way to accommodate an uncomfortable customer.
If you're not getting to home advisor leads in the first 5 minutes, you shouldn't even do it.
Hopefully we're eating their lunch while they're trying to get back up and running.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Hope you're doing fantastic on this Thursday, January 14th. Hope everything's going well in your corner of the country. I wanted to kick off today's episode by talking a little bit about the NFL. I was watching over the weekend, specifically the Steelers-Browns game. Steelers fans, I'm so sorry. That might have been the worst 11-0 team in the history of the NFL. If you don't watch the NFL, if you don't watch football, this isn't a football podcast, so I'll kind of lay the groundwork here. The Cleveland Browns haven't won a playoff game in the last 17 years. 17 years. That is a long, long, long time. But if you watch them when they came out, they played lights out. They put a ton of points on the board early. Their defense was playing amazing. And it got me to thinking, how can this relate to a podcast topic? Because that's my life now. But seriously, I was thinking about being the underdog, right? Going against expectations when there's no one in your corner and still finding a way to pull it off. Being fueled by that underdog mentality. You got your Pellas, Window Worlds, Power Home. There is a lot of companies out there with more resources than you, more brand equity than you. And when it comes to marketing, it is so hard to kind of overcome that, to challenge those Goliaths. You can hardly budget $2,000 for a TV ad. Pella can drop $20,000 in a TV ad, not even blink an eye. So in today's podcast, I'm joined by Kyle Powers, who is a consultant at Tony Hoty. He started in sales, moved over to marketing, has really mastered the art of canvassing and face-to-face lead generation. He's worked for a ton of big names in the industry, Tundraland, Mad City. He says the biggest thing he hears from his clients is, how can we position our marketing to take on those big dogs in the market? So today we're going to talk about the strategies that he uses, the strategies that he gives to his clients. I mean, this episode in of itself is like getting a free consultation from Tony Hoty. There is so many good things you can pick up from this. Apply it to your business. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kick the episode off. Again, this is Kyle Powers with Tony Hoty Consulting. I'll see you on the other side. I hope you enjoy.
I came over from the direct sales industry, so I was selling cable door-to-door telecommunications. And that was, a selling role. Built teams, managed teams, that way. And when I came over to this industry, I came over as marketing, as being a canvas manager for what was then Mad City, building their canvas team and lead generating. It wasn't until I was in the industry for a few years where I was a marketing director at another company that I also took on a small role selling in the home, and then became sales manager as well as still doing all the marketing stuff. It was kind of a smaller company. So I did get some sales in this industry also. And when I went over to Tundraland, actually the owner there, had asked me, hey, you sold in this business, you're, a great marketer in this business. What is your passion? What do you what route do you want to take? I'll offer you either. And I said, no, marketing. Marketing's it. And the lead gen, the quickness, all of that, the training, the building of the teams. I love it. I love it and live it every day. So
That's awesome, man. The concept of face-to-face in-person sales and then jumping to face-to-face in-person marketing with this canvassing. Is that kind of the mentality you brought from sales and then applied that to marketing? Is this something you had seen before, or were you kind of starting from scratch with it?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really privy to kind of to the lead generation side before coming into this industry where, when I first looked at it as lead generation, but what I've really figured out over time is it is sales. We're selling something for free, but we're really not selling something for free when we generate a lead. It's people's time that they're giving us. to come out and see them. And so when the value that we give them supersedes the value of their time, they'll have us out. And so that's really the currency that they pay us, is with their time. And so still realizing that the marketing process really is a sales process when you're face-to-face setting that lead. It's just the process happens to be 3 minutes instead of, 60, 90 minutes, or even 3 hours long sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And that's interesting, that the playbook that you guys use, and you don't have to give away the secret sauce or anything. Again, it's what you do now as a consultant for Tony Hoty, right?
Yes.
You kind of provide the groundwork and the playbook for how to build a really good canvassing program.
Yeah, canvassing, shows, events, call center, we do recruiting and everything too, but that was really how Tony got his started, was on the canvassing side. Same thing, same way I got started, but all of us have marketed in all those roles, and we consult on all those different, areas.
That's awesome. With such a heavy emphasis on in-person events and canvassing, and obviously this past year brought about some major impacts, shifts there. And, we saw a lot of companies and customers came to us saying, we find that our show, like home show events, are one of the biggest lead generators of the year. And we don't know if they're going to happen this year. So how were you talking to your clients and customers coming to you when they came with this question? Is it more of a focus on canvassing neighborhoods, or what's your take there?
Yeah, so it depends on where you're at in the country, because believe it or not, I have a client I'm talking with right now. They're looking at doing some work with me for home shows this next month. Nice. So there is some areas that they're still happening. I know just in my local area, I'm in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, Nari still had their fall home show happen. And so in select little parts, shows and events are still a possibility. They certainly are limited compared to where they used to be. In certain areas, they're non-existent. You can't find anything, that way. And so it kind of brings me to, before having too many eggs in one basket, so to say, when you look at any one lead source, if that's your bread and butter, if that's the thing that sets you up for the year, look at getting some other things also that can do that. Because even without a massive thing, the whole country shut down, that kind of thing with the COVID, is that leads are, they kind of are like a roller coaster. So you can have a source that's working really good and it just goes dry all of a sudden. And if I know of companies that had massive programs that was 60, 70, 80% of their business, and that program just ended overnight. So it's how quickly can you get into other things else. But the biggest thing before that is just diversifying your portfolio of leads, so to say, and how you get them. So that way, if any one stops, you don't even notice it, as a business. You just keep going about, that way. And I think, before COVID hit, that our industry is doing really well. We're on a growth. We've been doing well for a while, and even still with COVID happening, a lot of businesses are still having record months and record years and things like that. So, but I think a lot of times when things are really, really good, it kind of breeds some apathy to making sure that you're doing really, really good with each individual thing, so that when something big like this does happen, you're still running efficient and lean. And yeah, you might take a little bit of hit of overall business, but if you're still running profitably, it is what it is, and you can build back up upon that base. But we were starting to get a lot of calls because hey, we lost this lead source. It was our bread and butter. Now we have these other ones and they're not working too well either. All the way down to, we did a lot of call center work this year because that's where a lot of the focus was. And also, canvassing, getting companies that have never canvassed before. But one really big hit has been our brand ambassador program, where it's kind of a hybrid canvas, as well as, it's repeat business, referral business, reviews and radius marketing. And we're seeing that small companies could easily make the shift. One marketer out there generating $1 million a year in business for them. Whereas, traditionally in canvassing, your average canvasser, it gets you about $300,000 a year in business. So it's that one marketer doing the business of three, as well as, getting additional things like the reviews, which of course help every other thing, aspect in your business on lead generation. So it's been an interesting, shift that way. But I think it's definitely something that, even though I don't know of another pandemic going to come around so quick, I mean, it's only happened once in my lifetime so far, right? That it's really done anything like that. But is, being prepared that, hey, if this was our number one lead source and it stopped tomorrow, what would we do? And having those backup plans in place.
Yeah, I mean that's the case for so many different areas too. Like, I mean, even in our case, we were dabbling in some Facebook ads, and then Facebook pulled the ad account for like a week or two. And I've heard horror stories from other businesses, even home improvement businesses, that TV ads got held up or radio ads stopped and direct mail. So it's a good point that you're making about diversifying that portfolio of what's going on. But I really want to jump into the topic today of being the underdog. And this is an interesting concept to me because if you look at like the target market of home improvement industry, I think it's 60 to 70% are in that kind of SMB area. Of course, you have your top like 10 to 20% of like enterprise companies.
Yep.
We all know who those are.
Yep.
But when you're one of the smaller ones and you're going up against the big dogs in your target market, is this something you run into frequently with the companies that you consult? Is this something you're hearing, especially lately with now it's a rush for, digital ads and stuff like that?
Yeah. And so the first thing I always like to say is we got to remember is those big guys were once the small underdog guys also, right? And so with anything, what's tough with competing with the big guys is, right, their market share and then their spending dollars that, hey, you might have a marketing budget of, 20 grand for the year or, 100 grand for the year. And they do that a day sometimes. I mean, multi-million dollars, a year for some of these, these bigger companies that they're spending on marketing. And so the idea is not to compete with them overall because you can't. Until you get the, spend for spend was equal, now you can compete. And then it's all about message and, all that stuff and how you treat the customer going forward. So good name and all that kind of stuff. But if we're talking, I was just having this conversation with a small client. He's, one-man operation looking at bringing on his first couple of, people to work inside his business. And he is competing against some of the industry giants in his marketplace. And he's like, I mean, is it even a worthwhile cause or should I just stay small and like I am now? And I said, no. And here's how you do it. You have to compete with them where you can. So in other words, starting with just your small neighborhood, even if you're a really small company, you can own that neighborhood. So maybe in that, 10 square block radius, you are the powerhouse, you are the big dog, because you can, a lot more quickly and efficiently own that little area without them even noticing that you're doing it, that you're out there and you are the person. So own that small area first. And you can look at that with anything you're doing, whether it's, online, in person, face to face, any type of the mediums that you may use, you want to try to own and dominate that marketplace, with that one lead source that you're going after. And we can look at, how, Tony Hoty has done it with his own retail business, very organically, and what's tough about that a lot of times is it's not the quickest thing. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes work, just like it took those big companies a long time and work to get to where they're at. But it's getting involved with things like the local sports, the high school sports, the teen sports, the baseball leagues, and in owning that market share of people. Tony used to do the perfect pass, on the Friday night football games, and he actually gave away a house full of windows. There's video on YouTube with a guy making the perfect pass through the little hole, and that was the greatest thing, even though it cost him a house full of windows that could have ever happen because of the media that goes behind that. But I mean, the cost was slim to none to dominate that marketplace. And that's the thing. If you look at his business in his local area, he is the guy. Even though there's some other really big companies in there, in that local area, he dominates. And so you can look at that with, depending on your marketing spend, it might just be a few square block area, but you can build from there, by doing direct mail to all those houses. Digitally wise, you can, geofence those areas, and you can serve up ads just to that, just to that area, and you can pick your demographics and, multiple direct mail pieces. And of course, when you look at something like a brand ambassador program like we have, every time you install a job there and you're going back there and you're talking with those homeowners and you're getting their referrals, and then you're canvassing around that local, 10, 20, 30 houses in that immediate area, and you start doing that over and over and over again, you can look at how you can grow and keep getting that market space bigger and bigger and bigger. Something absolutely zero cost, just take you a little bit of time, is a lot of these little local neighborhoods have their own Facebook pages. The moms of ABC Township or whatever, they have their own little Facebook page, and you can get in there and you can use unique little contest of hey, we're installing at 123 Main Street today in your neighborhood. Guess how many windows we're installing. Get a $50 gift certificate to the local pizza place in that neighborhood. And you're tying all that together and creating a community that you can dominate in. And that's completely free, except maybe the gift card if you offer that even.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. It's the grassroots, and what you find typically is like the grassroots, smaller, like niche base becomes really the strongest. They become your brand ambassadors, the ones that tell family and friends, oh, this guy's been amazing. He's been around the block. He supports these local things in the community. That's a pretty incredible take. It's a little bit more robust than I would have thought, where it's like wherever you completed your job, just put a sign in the yard. There's a little bit more that goes into it. It sounds like. So some of those, like, let's say it's a 3-man operation or 3-man, 2 people. What are some of those essentials in your opinion that every business should have in place when they're going to start tackling this strategy, this niche strategy?
Yeah, the key is being having a system and a process. First of all, so many companies, especially when they're smaller, they're just kind of winging it, and they fell into some things that work, some things that they know kind of, hey, this does work and this doesn't work, so let's just keep doing what does work. And they don't necessarily have the rhyme or reason why it is or isn't working, but they're just seeing the results from it, either good or bad. And so if they're good, they keep doing more of it. But the idea is, as you continue to grow and put in programs, you got to have some basic, processes and systems behind them, so we can really get a good gauge. Hey, did this one not work because it doesn't work, or did this not work because we missed the boat, or maybe we did this in the wrong area, and a lot of things like that. So that's the first thing, is really kind of discover, what do we want to do? How are we going to measure it and manage it so we think we can get a result from it? That's really the first thing. And even whether you're the 3-man operation, like you're saying, or a 300-man operation, all this range true. There's a lot of work we do with some of the bigger companies where it's bringing them back to those tried and true guerrilla basic, things of marketing. And again, it, really boils back to that brand ambassador program that I was talking about with the repeat, radius, referral, and review is, all the seminars that we go to, everybody always wants more referrals. They want more, add-on business with their addition, the customers they've already done business with, because they've already paid for those leads. And, for most companies, those are the 2 that they do the least with. They don't get any referrals, not because they're not a good company, but they just don't focus on it. And so they're so focused on all these big programs and these big spends and go out and get leads that they kind of almost forget about that real basic stuff. And it's, so you got to, whether you're small or big, you got to still be doing those basic things, all the time. And a lot of times what I see, whether it's small company to large company, is that they don't hold accountable to what is expected to happen. So they might put these systems and processes in place, and they tell their people, hey, go do it. But then it's never measured. It's never managed after that. And then they're, hey, I want to quit doing this program because it's not working. Well, you never gave it a chance to work. You never followed up with people. And I recently wrote a blog article with another company kind of on that idea that, planning not planning is planning to fail, essentially. And so getting that stuff right, and measuring it behind it, and kind of going back to what we just talked about a little before. Actually, I know you had her on the podcast before, Megan. She's one of our consultants here at Tony Hoty. She actually just put out a blog article today about not just being a home improvement company, but being a community improvement company. And that community improvement has a lot to do with those grassroots, getting out there in the community and owning those areas.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. I'm starting to see that a little bit more. And maybe this is something that after 2020, and this is something that could be big in 2021, which is companies really focusing in on their community and supporting the community, and becoming more of a player there. Is that a shift you're seeing, or what is your take on what's to come for this year? I'm sure there's 100 different possibilities here, but is there anything that you see sticking out?
Yeah, I mean, with the community involvement aspect, a lot of kind of the old name behind that, cause marketing. And there's companies that make huge advancements in their marketplaces because they did those kind of things, and it's kind of an accelerator, so to say. I was when I was with Tunderland, that was one of the biggest things we did that really helped with the growth was that cause marketing in giving back. And it wasn't just about being the best home improvement company, it's about being the best brand, while improving homes, lives, and communities, that they served. And so really getting out there and being a part of that. When you look at a home improvement company, and even though they may have a different branded window, to most homeowners, it's still a window. To a lot of homeowners, it boils down to price. And then the rest of it's all the company story and the value that you bring as a company. But if everything running true, exact same window, exact same cost, you got to ask yourself, what would differentiate us from the consumer, to the consumer about the other company? And if you looked at one company, maybe doesn't even have any reviews or a few reviews, and maybe the few they have aren't the greatest reviews because they haven't gone out and got any good reviews for themselves, even though they may have them. And the other company for the exact same price has great reviews, and they're a part of, they sponsor the local high school teams, and hey, I heard they gave away this to the vet down the street, and all those kind of things. It makes people feel good. I mean, which one would you choose if you were between the two, right? So, the hard part with that is, again, also still having a systems and a process for it, a way that you're going to manage it, a way that makes sense, getting your people involved in it, in running forward. And then, again, there's stuff you can do from one-man operation that costs almost nothing that way, all the way up to some of the biggest guys giving away, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars a year back to their local community. So there's, stages at every level, so to say.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I was running against time here, and I want to wrap it up. Something I want to try out, and still working on the name, but it's something about like last tip before we dip. I would love to hear just your top tip, your number one tip that you give customers or that you give people that are interested in Tony Hoty's services. What's the one thing everybody should be focusing on right now?
I would definitely say diversifying would be the first one. If you look into your business and you realize that you are just one or two lead sources is what's keeping your business alive. And even though those might have been great lead sources this year, it got you through the struggle of this year as what's happening. There's other things coming up. Traditionally, inbound stuff, when people are reaching out to you and calling into you, that usually happens when times are good. What happens when the phone stops ringing? And that's where that face-to-face marketing, that getting out in the community involvement, makes all the difference, that way. And so really look into your business, diversify, that way. And then, the second part to that is a lot of times when people call in to work with us, what they feel their problem is that they want us to help fix isn't actually the problem. It's just the symptoms of what the real problem really is. And so really taking, a hard look at it. Do we have a plan, a process in place? If we do have a plan and process in place, are we following the plan and process, and are we holding accountable to that plan and process to make happen? And usually, especially when people are reaching out to this, they're missing some part of that equation.
That's awesome, Kyle. That's all the questions I had today, man. I really appreciate you hopping on. As a quick little plug for you and Tony Hoty, let's say somebody is curious about some of the strategies, playbooks you guys offer. Where would they look? What's the website, and can they connect with you on LinkedIn, that sort of thing?
Yep, I'm certainly on LinkedIn under Kyle Powers. Tony Hoty's on LinkedIn, but you can go to tonyhoty.com. That's TONYHOTY.com. We have a section where you can go ahead and send us your information, do a free 30-minute kind of evaluation call, see where you're at, where we may be able to help in what you're looking for. And we just, we love the industry. We love talking about it, love being in it. So can reach out there. Also, I do run a podcast also, Lead Gen Leaders. So a lot of good tips there. A lot of times, Tony and I are on there together talking about a lot of these programs I just discussed with you. So that's really a great spot to start, whether you're an employee, a marketer, own your own, thinking about starting your own, it's a really great place to start, with marketing, along with, your podcast also about the business. So. Yeah.
I was flipping through your episodes. I think yesterday. There's some interesting stuff in there. I'm going to have to dig in a little bit. I listened to some briefly, but there's some good stuff there. Kyle, thanks again so much. This is a ton of good information, especially for our listeners. And I'll definitely drop those links in the YouTube description and stuff like that. But again, Kyle, thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a wonderful day.